What happens when you get what some astrologers call the hardest day of the year, the most challenging day of the year, 2 days before a total lunar eclipse? Well, what you get is very likely a turning point, an ending of sorts, a need to be honest with ourselves, even if it's hard, and especially when it's hard. In fact, it is when we're unable to be honest with ourselves because we've had so much invested into some outcome that we were hoping for, something we really wanted to manifest. Well, it seems like it isn't coming together, and that frustration can give way to us needing to honestly evaluate whether or not we've given enough, or whether it is time to change course, to go in another direction, and in some cases, a completely different direction. Well, what I can say is this is going to be an especially emotional total solar eclipse, but it also promises huge breakthroughs with big luck energy, without a doubt, but also empowerment energies as well. Whatever truth that felt so hard to accept, to embrace, to make peace with, once we do, we start to see the opportunity. We start to see what's so good, and that's when we unleash great fortune for ourselves now. Now, the hardest day of the year doesn't necessarily have to be, well, too hard. It doesn't have to be too stressful. It might be all that, but Saturn is also about manifestation, and where you've been doing the responsible thing, the right thing, the thing that honors you, keeping promises to yourself, what is required towards moving towards the manifestations you desire. Well, this can be a time of culmination, which ultimately means reward, where you actually manifest something you've been working very diligently and hard towards. Now, how the most challenging day, the hardest day of the year is going to speak to you and your sign? Well, it depends on your sun, moon, and rising. Take all three into consideration, synthesize the information to make it unique to you. And if you want even more horoscopes, and especially if you want to look at how the eclipse will speak to you in your sign, check out my YouTube channel for the monthly horoscopes up now. And of course, even more horoscopes are over in the superstar space at thefutureismagical.com. Aries, with the hardest day of the year taking place in the sign just before yours, there are a lot of things stirring on levels of soul, psyche, and spirit. There's an inner restlessness. You might not be able to put your finger on exactly what it is that's going on, exactly what you're feeling, but there could also be a difficult ending taking place. Now, for all that, very quickly, you will see that whatever's taking place is all part of helping you to create space so that you can do that much more that you're meant to do in this lifetime. But where it is you've gotten way off on a path that's ultimately illusionary, well, that might be part of a difficult sense of transition back to reality. But very soon, you just might see what it is that exits your life. Well, that in and of itself is a great fortune, again, so that you can live that much more fully now. Taurus, friendships, group alliances. You are about to get very honest about your role within a group, or honest about a particular friend in your life. Now, this is an energy of extremes, which means that for some, this truth could be challenging. It might be hard to really look at how you're participating in a group endeavor that maybe you don't want to anymore. Or it could be that the decision is made for you and there's an ending taking place there. But it can also be that a lot of this energy is playing out with a friend where you see something of their true colors, and it might feel hard to accept, but it's also possible that it's a different way. What I mean by that is you might really need somebody and they're there for you, or you might not realize how somebody comes through for you in a way that's just so real. It's so practical, and it might be the last person that you expected, but they ultimately helped you to create greater stability in your life right now. One thing's for sure, when Saturn's involved, what you need is there. Don't try to make it about a specific person, but rather be open and see whom it is that the universe presents to you. Gemini, career, social standing, life purpose. This is a big turning point moment, a moment of truth that might also involve some reward. But if that's the case, it's been a long time coming. It'll be very well earned. It might feel as if, wow, I should have gotten this recognition way back in the day, but now here it is after a period of some challenge and work. But for a lot of Geminis, that isn't necessarily going to be the case here. It's more about you getting really honest about the path you're on, what's working for you, but also what isn't, who your boss actually is, how you feel about a person in position of authority, and whether or not you can still live with it might be part of the scenarios that find you. Regardless, this can be a big turning point moment in your understanding of what a higher, more loving vision for your life just might be. And as part of the mystery, whatever happens now ultimately aligns you more fully with that very vision, even if it isn't totally clear now, even if it looks like there's an ending and you wish that really wasn't the case, or there's some disappointment you wish wasn't there, it puts you on the path towards greater and even better. Cancer, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, and legal matters might come into focus in some way now. Now, again, this is a turning point, but it's also a very all or nothing moment. So if you've been involved in one of these matters and it's felt challenging, I mean, Saturn has been here since early 2023. Well, it can feel like a culmination moment in regards to something that's been ongoing. However, remember, you've got the North Node here. You're about to have a big party in this part of the sky once we get into April, which means that whatever feels like it hasn't had the outcome that you desire, well, things might look really different once we navigate into April and all these karmic blessings open up. But for all that, this energy might just play out more personally, having to do with an understanding of your place in the world, figuratively, philosophically, spiritually as well, as you come to examine more deeply what you believe about your world, and do those beliefs actually support you to live in a way that you want? And where the answer is no, well, this is where hard questions lead to empowering truths. Leo, profound change, truth, transformation, regeneration, and wealth. So you can see here, having a hard energy, well, it's an energy of all or nothing. It's not just difficult, but it's also an energy of some manifestation. And so for many Leos, this is going to work out personally, having to do with finally accepting the truth about how you feel, or some external person, place, thing, or situation. It's like you're conscious of what it is that's playing out, and you're striving to be honest with yourself in the process of what it is that just might not be working, where it is that maybe a part of your growth means going another way or in a different direction. And it's being aware of your own secrets, if you will, that you consciously keep, where it's serving you, but also where it isn't. Now, if this energy plays out in terms of a financial matter, understand the money you need is there. For some, this is going to be a moment when a lot of financial stuff feels like it solidifies. But for others, there's going to be a sense that where you wanted certain funding to come from might not be the way. But again, the money you need is there. You are engaging valuable spiritual lessons along your way to greater wealth. Virgo, love, partnerships of all kinds are covered here. And so you can see this might not be the easiest energy, but the Sun meeting Saturn is very all or nothing in some ways. And so that is honesty that ultimately solidifies connections, or it is a honesty that has you realizing what's gone as far as it's going to. Whether it is your understanding of where you are in love and why, it could be somebody new that presents themselves to you now, and you're having to look at them really honestly and look at how you actually feel. But this could also play out in terms of longer term relationships that are underway. Remember though, Venus is retrograde in your opposite sign, which means that just when you think you know, things could look very different once you navigate into April, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do exactly what's right for you to do right now in light of your unique circumstances. Libra, your daily life, your work life, clients, customers, coworkers, but also how well you take care of you in terms of your health. And yeah, having one of the hardest days of the year take place in a health part of the sky is not fun, and yet it is an energy of empowerment. That's the thing to remember. This is about you claiming an understanding of what's really going on and how to help yourself in a very practical way. And if it is that you need health related advice, you want to go to the tried and true, the specialist, even if you are one of the more bohemian souls out there. I know what that's like. It is now that you actually want to go to the established way of doing things to get answers that you might actually find very valuable. Outside of that, though, this can be a real turning point with those clients, customers, and coworkers in your life now, where you're seeing another person as they actually are and your connection to them. This could mean that one of these people is not working out, is exiting in some way, or you need to be more honest with yourself about your expectations of them, where they're reasonable, where they're not. But ultimately, it leads to more honest relations. Scorpio, romance, flirtation, what the heart truly wants in every area of life. It is a moment of getting very honest with yourself in this regard. And so flirtations can happen now. They may hold great long-term potential, but also where it is that perhaps a new connection or flirtation just isn't right. Well, regardless, it helps you to get honest with yourself about what you're really wanting in love. Now, outside of that, for those of you in established bonds, well, this might be a real moment of understanding whether or not love is actually here, but Venus is retrograde. Just when you think you know the answer, it might end up being something very different. For all of that, this could be a desire to manifest more opportunities related to creative endeavors in your life, and where it is you're embracing that possibility and you're doing the work well, it can be that you manifest real world gains. Sagittarius, home, the past, your living situation, and your family of origin. What's happening at home might feel like a bit of a serious matter, but it may not work out in that way. This could also be about you reconciling yourself with the past, getting really honest about what was before. There might be a lot of feelings, there might be a lot of frustration, but ultimately it gives way to acceptance. That is the superpower when the sun meets Saturn in the sky. And from that place of acceptance of whatever took place in the past that you have no power over anymore, you're able to live that much more fully. You're able to move forward with that much more empowerment. However, I will also say this: if you're looking to buy, sell, move, or attract a new roommate, I would encourage you to be patient with yourself. Remember, we do have Mercury gearing up to go retrograde at the very beginning of next week. And what that means is we're already in Mercury retrograde season. Venus is retrograde as well. Part of that retrograde seasons are going to happen at the foundation of your chart. You might find a place and you think you love it and this is it. It might end up being very different. Pace yourself and be yourself. Capricorn, siblings, cousins, neighbors. One of these people might feel like they really need you now, or you might feel like you want to be very present in the lives of one of these types of people in your life now. It is about accepting the reality of what you can do and where it is that you don't have power over a given situation. Having said that, this might be a time when you're looking at wanting to learn something new, take on a new skill, and you get to glimpse what that process might actually be and ask yourself whether or not it's worth it. You know, it's one thing to go about trying to do something that you don't really like to do, but you feel like you got to do it even though you don't do it well, and actually focusing in on what it is you know you do exceptionally well, knowing that that's where your superpower just might be. You're learning to make that distinction now. Aquarius, money you earn, money you spend, self-love, self-esteem. So for some Aquarians out there, this might be a moment of insight into where you are financially, how you're spending your money, how you're earning your money, what's worth doing and what isn't, what's worth getting and what isn't. Now, this could also be real changes where it comes to how you go about earning. And with Saturn, there's more work to do. So where it is that you're implementing things or you're just feeling like there's more to do to create prosperity, well, ultimately, the work will be rewarded. That's the thing with Saturn, is that gains can be made. But first with this, there might be a turning point, realizing what's worth doing and what isn't. Now, for all that, some Aquarians might not experience this energy financially at all. It might orient you more around self-love, self-esteem, getting a dose of truth of where it is and how it is you could be valuing yourself a lot more in a given situation. And once you identify that, you go about doing it. Pisces, identity, who you know yourself to be, what matters to you most and first. Your priorities feel like in an instant they go through a change. You get very honest with yourself. Now, it's one thing to say, this is my priority, this is who I am. But it is another thing where you realize that the thoughts you're holding and the things that you are reacting to and how you're acting and who you believe yourself to be contradicts what it is that you're saying based on what you're demonstrating. And so this can be a big moment of truth. For some Pisceans, it's ultimately going to be a moment of self-respect, of groundedness that helps fuel a sense of understanding of what you're manifesting and what you want to continue giving yourself to and what it is that's really going to make you happy. But for others, this is going to be more challenging because it's about acknowledging where it is that you haven't been honest with yourself, where it is that your thoughts and actions are one thing and your self-concept is another, and how it is now that you can bring them into congruency is part of how you end up empowering yourself going forward from here. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.